Okay, I'm going to state the obvious now. The problem with selling on platforms like Etsy, eBay, Amazon, YouTube, or even social media is that we don't have any control over our reach or how many of our audience actually sees what we're sharing. Policies and algorithms can change on a whim, and sometimes that can completely stomp all over work that you have been doing for weeks or even years to build up a community. You don't need me to tell you this, you know this, but we still use these platforms, don't we? Why? Because they can be quite useful tools, but they can be time sucks too. And the balance can sometimes be tipped into us putting a lot more time and effort into something that isn't giving us much of a result back. So what's the answer to all of this uncertainty and doom and gloom and lack of control? Well, I'm so glad you asked, because that's why I made this video. We need to, alongside all of these platforms that we use, build ourselves a core something that can keep on going, even if there is a big algorithm change, policy change, insert stressy thing here. I mean, you've all heard that thing about if you build a business on Etsy or social media and only those things, then you're building it on someone else's land. Well, this video, I'm going to give you 3 different things that you can do, if you're not already doing them, to start building something more solid, more future-proof, more sustainable for you, alongside these other things. Things that are going to stand the test of time. So if your social media gets taken away and your Etsy shop gets taken away, and I hope to God that never happens to you, but in case the metaphorical hits the fan, you've got something solid that's yours. Your solid ground for your foundations, if you will. With a caveat, because isn't there always some small print, none of these things are hacks, they're certainly not quick, and they are going to take time to build. Hence, the title of this video being, A Year From Now, You'll Be Glad You Started. Anyone who's not new here will know that I love that phrase. There's a good reason for it. So see these things as something that you are going to start now, if you haven't already, and you're going to chip away at for the course of a year, and this time next year, you're going to be glad you started. Okay, the first one is going to be mailing lists. And I always feel like I have to apologize when I start talking about this, because it's not the most interesting of topics, but it is one of the best core pillars to have your business built upon. So hear me out. The problem, I think, with mailing lists is that they can be hard to build. I don't think we should see that as a problem though, because I don't like funnels. I'm not a big fan of getting people into funnels, but I'm going to use that metaphor because I think it demonstrates the idea perfectly. If you imagine like a funnel of people who find your business, and a mailing list is, say, at the bottom, although there's going to be fewer people at that point in your funnel, they're going to be more engaged, they're going to be warmer, they're more likely to buy from you because they are literally giving you permission to email them, and that takes effort on their part if you're doing it right. If you're just adding people to a mailing list, then no, don't do that. But if people are actively clicking on a sign-up page from somewhere and typing in their email address and maybe their name, and in this day and age of instant gratification online, that's a big thing. So don't see mailing lists as something that need to be thousands of subscribers big. They don't have to be. We're going for quality here, not quantity. Nobody sees your numbers. They're a complete vanity metric. Let it go. You want your mailing list to be your creme de la creme of folks. I strongly believe that numbers don't matter with mailing lists. It really is about just making sure you're attracting the right people. Remember, quality over quantity. So what's next? If you haven't yet got a mailing list, that's what you need to start right now. I use MailChimp, and you can sign up with them for free, and you can create a sign up page, and then you'll have a link that you can share on your platforms and places and invite people to sign up to your mailing list, with an emphasis on the word invite. I do need to say this every time I talk about mailing lists. An easy way to think about it is, do you have consent to email this person, and can you prove that should you need to? You want to build trust with your customers. And like I said earlier, if anybody is willing to jump over the hurdles of clicking and adding their own information, they're warm leads. And that's a good email list. So it's worth doing right from the start. All right, so I'm going to move to the next thing, which is starting your own website. Okay, I'm going to use Etsy as an example because that's the platform that I use. The benefit to using Etsy over a website is that you only pay fees when you sell something. Whereas having a website, there's a standard fee to pay every single month or year, depending on how you do it. That being said, with Etsy, those fees can start adding up, especially once those sales increase and start becoming more consistent. In which case you can find yourself spending more in monthly fees than you would be on a website anyway. And with the added argument that nowadays you have to spend a lot of time driving your own traffic to Etsy anyway, it kind of makes sense to have a website, because if you're going to do all of that, you may as well do it for your own website. If you're not sure, then my tip would be to make sure you know what you're paying in fees every single month on whatever platform you are on. And then compare it to the costs of running a website each month. If it's about the same, or you're paying more on Etsy, eBay, or whatever it is that you're on, perhaps consider a website. In fact, I would go one step further and say, if you have the budget for a website, start anyway, regardless of how much you're spending on fees on your platform. But if your business budget is tight, just keep an eye on those fees and maybe use that as a gauge as to when is the right time for you to not switch from Etsy or whatever it is to a website, but just add a website to your tools. Because let's take Etsy again as an example. Algorithms, policy changes, lots of other stuff, that can all be taken away at any given time. If you have a website already running, you've got something to fall back on. Now, starting a whole website is not an easy fix. Again, it's something you're going to have to work on and grow over time. You may not have to worry about Etsy algorithms, for example, but you will need to start thinking about Google search algorithms, which is a whole other thing. But this is why starting your own website or Shopify store is a perfect example of something that you should be starting now, and a year down the line, you'll be in a much healthier position. And I'm going to be doing this myself over the next year. I'm not moving away from Etsy, but I am adding a website to the whole shebang. No clue what I'm doing, so I'm going to be sharing my progress here on the channel. So if that sounds interesting to you, then do follow along. It should be fun. And this one I feel very passionately about, and is definitely something that you need to give at least a year to, if not more. And that is starting a community around your business. Emphasis on the word community. This isn't about list building or boosting up vanity metrics like follower numbers, subscribers, all of the things. This isn't about numbers at all. This is about building a community, which means getting to know your customers, getting to know their names, what they like, what they don't, and being genuine with it, not sneaky. You're not doing this because you're like, right, there's Jane, she's 35, she lives in the north of England, and she likes bunny rabbits. It's just about getting to know the people who are following your journey. And when I say community, you might instantly think about social media. It certainly can be. My community, whenever I think about it, I always think about here on YouTube. Yes, a lot of people watch my videos who they click on one video and they may never watch me again. However, there are people who appear in the comments week on week, and I look forward to seeing their names and chatting with them, and it's just fun. But basically the way I see it is that any platform that allows you to communicate directly with people, I've just kicked the tripod, I apologise. Those are the tools that you can use to build a community on. And there's loads of those. I mean, God, we've got TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, for those in the future, maybe, I don't know. Instagram, YouTube, because comments and all of the things, any way that you can communicate with people, you can build a community on. I just like YouTube, so I'm biased. But I'm also on Instagram as well. Facebook, Twitter, not for a long time. TikTok will move on. I mean, Instagram is pretty much the only social media platform that I have. And as far as generating sales goes, it sucks. But as far as talking to the people who like my work goes, It's brilliant, and that's why I'm still there. But here are a few more reasons why I think it is essential for us to build a community around our businesses. The support you get. It can be bloody lonely running your own business. And sometimes building connections online, they really do help you get through the day. I'm not going to lie, sometimes days are like walking through treacle with lead boots on, and it's those little connections that you get online, the jokes that you get in your DMs, just seeing the regular faces crop up again and again. Sometimes that's what helps you keep going. And there are so many ways that people can support you that go further than just purchasing from you. Think about the last social media post that you posted. Every single person that commented on it and liked it, whether they meant to or not, were supporting you and helping you get seen and helping your work get out there into the world, which I suppose is actually a great time for me to go, hey, if you're not completely hating this video so far, please consider giving it a thumbs up because it'll help me get it out to even more people. Yeah, that was slick, Kim. Brilliant. I'll work on it. And if the whole support argument isn't enough to convince you that building a community around your business is a good idea, then I would argue it would also help build trust in you and your business. When people take the time to write out a thoughtful and lovely comment on something, I just think it's polite to respond if you can. I see a lot of people posting and ghosting, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, I do that. Sometimes life is a lot, or I'm just tired, or I'm tired and life is a lot, and it's all I've got energy for is to go and then forget it. But most of the time, I make an effort to comment back, especially on those comments that you can clearly see somebody has taken time out of their day to try and connect with you. And I think that's rather lovely. And I think if we're ignoring these, why are you on social media? Or why have you got your comment section switched on? Because the whole point of these tools is to give us a chance to communicate with one another. And that's kind of like a whole human thing. Yeah, communicate, guys, especially if you're on social media. The clue's in the name, social. I mentioned earlier that one of my favourite sayings was, a year from now, you'll be glad you started. Another one, the grass is greener where you water it. So these three things that I've mentioned, a mailing list, a website, building a community, you will get out what you put in. You don't need to burn yourself out doing a whole load of work and having all of the strategies and posting daily and all of this gumph. If you're looking at this long term, like a year, if you're chipping away at it bit by bit, consistently, often, but without putting a solid, set in stone structure on your time, you will actually find it quite easy. Just take the pressure off. And let's be honest, for those of us who have other things going on, which is pretty much everyone, sometimes little by little and chipping away at things, that's all we've got. So yes, if all you've got to give is a little bit every so often, that's still progress. That's still okay. So let me know in the comments which one of these things that you're going to get started on first. I'll go first. It's going to be the website. And as I say, I'm going to be sharing that more here. And if you are on Etsy and you wanted another good reason as to why I'm going to be moving away from it, then I made this video for you and I will see you over there. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Ta-ra!